Hello everybody and welcome back to Esports Talk. My name is Caleb and today we're going to be talking about a recent trend that's been making the rounds, the sub-split discussion that has been making, of course, a lot of buzz on social media for the past couple of days and recently had some interesting developments that I think add some real meat to the story. If you're unfamiliar, the sub-split is a discussion regarding the split between creators and the platform regarding Twitch. This is something that has been brought up quite a few times over the years. Twitch has always had a certain payout structure when it comes to how much money you get per subscriber, the 50-50 split, and a lot of creators are saying that it's time for that split to go the way of the dinosaur, especially given that other platforms have much more beneficial for the creator divisions when it comes to those payouts. Interestingly enough, recently, a former Twitch employee has weighed in on the situation, giving a little bit of insight into why the structure is the way it is and why change might be difficult. That adds some weight to the discussion and allows us to understand what the obstacles moving forward for this post, this trending post for UserVoice that's making the rounds, might be facing as it gains traction and starts to gain momentum with creators big and small. Making now as great a time as any to dive into things and take a closer look. To briefly lay some foundation, UserVoice is a forum for posting suggestions and ideas regarding different topics related to Twitch. Everything from functions like bits, channel points, etc. to safety and user accessibility. You can lend a vote to suggestions you like, leave comments, anything that helps the discussion further and develop. Of course, Twitch isn't guaranteed to take action on something simply because it's highly voted on, but it does show community favor. That brings us to the idea that's been gaining some heavy traction recently: change revenue split between streamers and lower payout minimums. To summarize what you can see on screen here, it calls for the payout split between streamers and Twitch, which is currently 50-50, to be adjusted to 70-30 in favor of the streamer, which would match YouTube and Facebook currently. It also calls for the payout minimum to be lowered from $100 to between $10 to $20. This of course has a lot of potential benefits, particularly for smaller streamers, but with content creators of all sizes being courted by different platforms right now, there's a lot of additional pressure that there hasn't been for quite some time for Twitch to start adopting more competitive practices. Zach Busey on Twitter notes that the suggestion as of January 5th had more support than any other UserVoice idea. He puts the number at just under 12,500, but at the time of recording, that number is approaching 19,000. Twitch hasn't yet commented on the matter, but we know the discussions regarding payout on Twitch, whether that's in regards to the sub split, whether that's in regards to getting payouts when it comes to things being locked up on their end, with streamers having complained about being unable to give money that is already theirs, to the frequency with which they're able to get that money, are far from new discussions. So we know that they're aware of the situation and aware of people's grievances in general. But for the time being, there's no official word on this particular post. So we don't have any news from them, but we do have what might be the next best thing. Taking a look at Twitter, we have Sam Chen, a former Amazon Twitch employee himself, who in a thread posted yesterday, January 7th, discusses some insight as to how the platform makes, and in this case burns, its money. He starts off by stating, "Big streamers are a loss leader. Every time someone who averages 5K, probably lower, goes live, Twitch loses money. Their paid subs will never be enough." Which is due to, as he explains, the cost involved in running the site. Serving vids and offering Prime subs all add up to the point that only mid-tier and smaller streamers, defined as between 100 to 500 views, make up for the loss. He also mentions that this money is why Twitch has pushed for big streamers to run ads so aggressively, something that's baked into the contract of several big names such as Hassan, famous for his top-of-the-hour ad breaks, and something that he's discussed is part of his contract with Twitch. Sam finishes by suggesting that the best chance for change would have to be a progressive structure that causes payout per sub to decrease the bigger you get, heavily favoring the smaller streamers without benefiting the big players, though he's doubtful they'd take that well. He also preemptively responds to the question of why Facebook and YouTube have better splits and cites their size as to blame. The sheer volume of the infrastructure needed to sustain Twitch being much more vast than what's going on at other platforms makes a lot of sense, even with some big names turning YouTube exclusive currently. YouTube is a massive platform with a lot of servers dedicated to video use, but potentially not as many dedicated to serving video, live streaming video, which has its own physical needs as Twitch does. So by Sam's account, we have Twitch burning money to keep these big name streamers around, hoping to find a monetization method that fits the kind of environment that they're creating for themselves, and so far, this is the best that they've got. And even so, may not be making them as much as they're expecting to be making. You're seeing a lot of money flying around. It may not all be lining Amazon's pockets the way they like currently. This is of course counterbalanced by the droves of creators of all sizes who are considering moving to other platforms, largely in part due to these practices. Meaning the very same things that are making Twitch whatever money they are making might be pushing a lot of people away and directly into the arms of their competitors. Speaking of competitors, and speaking of very good questions based on this thread, we have Nega Oryx asking in response to this thread, quote, curious about your thoughts if we continue to see more and more of the top streamers move to YouTube. Looking ahead to the future, 1 year, 3 years, etc. How do you think this will shake things up in terms of finances? Little to no impact or turning point in the industry? One hopes the future looks bright, but inevitably for weal and woe, Twitch is both an ideal and a cautionary tale for every platform trying to take a bite of the streaming pie. Its competitors need to match or exceed not only its features and its community, but its means of supporting the livelihoods of its creators. If the monetization practices Twitch is facing are an inevitability, they'll either have to find creative ways to make it work or leverage their other ventures. Facebook and Twitch have a lot going for them outside of streaming, but they might be having to burn some of that income to compete with Twitch. The story is far from reaching any sort of end. This discussion is still absolutely ongoing, but one can only hope that wherever it leads us, the streamers we love to see will be able to keep a roof over their heads and keep on gaming. But hey, this is, after all, a discussion, and so get discussing down in the comments down below. Let us know what you think. Do you feel like this could be the beginning of the end of Twitch's top spot on the food chain if YouTube and Facebook are able to successfully make themselves as a strong competitor in terms of features and in terms of outreach without losing this sub-split? Or do you feel like inevitably they're going to adopt a monetization method similar to Twitch once they reach a similar size? Do you feel like there's another way forward for both the platforms and the content creators? Let us know. We are dying to hear about it. And of course, the minute that we hear anything from other fellow streamers out there in the space, any content creators that continue to weigh in, or of course from Twitch itself, we'll be back with more news. But for the time being, that is all we have, folks. Thank you for joining us once again. My name is Caleb, and we'll talk to you next time.